Now let's talk about Danny Trejo, lover, action man, fighter. Any other words to describe him?
Ultimate badass. Danny Trejo, front and center in this movie. I mean, it's exciting to see him get to be the lead. Finally, after being in so many movies, supporting other people, he gets to be front and center, Clint Eastwood, badass in this.
Now you're joining this movie as now is Danny Trejo just sexy? I mean, as the action, the guns, everything going on. How'd you keep yourself off of him? I guess is the question.
No, I find it rather hard to keep my hands off of Danny Trejo, him being such an iconic sexual object of affection. But I managed to keep my paws off of him long enough to be able to shoot this movie, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and to become an action heroine in her own right. She turns into as big an iconic vision of badassery as Machete.
Now, speaking of which,
Yeah, dude, badassery. I love it.
do you just love your women with guns? Is that something you just love?
I love the iconic visual of seeing just female power. I mean, I grew up in a family of 10 kids. My 5 sisters beat that into me, that sense of seeing a strong woman in a situation toe-to-toe with the guys. I mean, there was 10 of us. It was equal. And I really loved that about him. My co-producer on my movies and runs my company with me is my sister. She's just fantastic and has been with me all those years. Same thing. I think it's just in the blood. It's in my worldview to be able to write characters that people like Michelle can come play. But then Michelle comes in brings so much. It elevates everything, makes you rethink and go, okay, I'm not even thinking big enough. Man, we're gonna put a patch on your eye. And you're gonna have a gun as big as Machete, and you're gonna be just laying waste to anything that's wrong and making everything right. So.
Speaking of action, do you ever just see some of the guys doing stuff and saying, "I want a knife. I want to do that"?
That was growing up and watching all the Rambo movies. I mean, the biggest icons were like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator films, but I really didn't have much to look forward to. But, you don't have to really ask for things because you kind of get it working with him. And, I've always been lucky that way, that I've had leverage with. Well, I've always attracted really cool, open-minded directors that, kind of let me play. So that's awesome. You don't have to wish for action when you're working with these guys.
Now, when you're looking at a story like this, do you just take the idea of it and say, let's make it into a fantasy action? I mean, do you just change the world automatically when you look at a story like this?
What was the question again? Sorry.
Like, do you just change the the gravity of the world? Is it just you just change everything in the story itself to be, I guess, as crazy and insane as this movie is? Do you look to push that envelope instead of saying, well, we can base it on the scientific facts, or we can throw into the next level?
There was a certain point where you get into that mindset, and it happened on Grindhouse, where when I shot the original trailer, the water was going to be very cold. Danny had to get in the water because there's a line where the guy says, "Hey, where's my wife?" And then you were going to show Danny in the water with a wife. And then I thought, okay, let me have 2 girls there just in case one doesn't feel comfortable being in there. And then as soon as I got him in with one, I said, wait a minute, put the other one in there too. It'll be the wife and daughter now. you gotta get more. It's a Grindhouse movie. What am I thinking? What am I restraining for? So I had to change, and that became such a huge joke and a big laugh that I suddenly got into the groove of the picture, which was you have to shock and titillate an audience like this because they've seen so much in order to make an impact and to make a statement of and to really entertain, and it becomes actually really entertaining and just how far you will go.
Boy, does he push the envelope. I mean, half of the things I was just, my mouth dropped, my jaw was just
I've shown it to some people and they said things that I'm just so used to because I wrote it a long time ago, and they said, oh, and I can't believe the one. I said, which part? And they tell me, and I'm like, oh, I guess so. Yeah, that's right. I remember it shocked me when I wrote it 10 years ago, but now I gotten so used to it, I don't even think of it. What audiences are going to think when they see some of the things in this movie? They're just going to, I want to be there to hear the crowd reaction.
That's classic.